Hey Roshan. So I have my B Celtic with me, and yeah, we're just gonna get into some beginning exercises, some warm-ups and things, and I'll start from the very beginning with just a bit of the introduction, a reintroduction for you of the handpan itself, and yeah, I'll just start from ground zero. So as far as positioning your handpan, there's a couple different options. Some people prefer to have the lowest note directly in line with their belly button, right? Just like this. So then it's like lowest note is here in the middle, and then you have left, right, left, right, left, right, and then you have the highest note basically also right in the center. Some people prefer to twist it just a bit so that the two lowest notes are equally spaced, right? And then in this case you have like 4 notes on the right side and then 4 notes on the left side with nothing directly in the middle. So it's just like this interstitial area is in the middle here and in the middle here, splitting the handpan into basically 2 halves. So those are your 2 options for how to place the handpan. I like to typically hold it more like this, where the low note is facing my belly button. Alright, and then as far as how to strike the handpan, I would typically play the 2 lowest notes with my thumbs. So I'll have my thumb rotating in towards the pan. So I would start with my palm face up, rotate in towards the pan, and then as soon as your thumb makes contact with the steel, then you're letting go. Right? So I apologize if this is review for you or if you already are fine with striking the pan, but I just want to start from 0, and this way this video can be useful for others as well who are just starting from 0. So I'll put this video probably on my YouTube channel, and then anyone can learn from it. Alright, so when you're striking these 2 low notes, you want to strike the part that is basically on the outside. So rather than reaching across and striking up here, you want to strike down here. Because if you reach across and strike on the top side of the note, then you're basically muting the whole rest of this note because your hand is touching the metal here and then it's muting the sound. So I always advise to kind of strike here where you're not reaching across the note. And then same on the other side here. I would strike on the outside towards the bottom, kind of like right here, like the bottom left corner of the pan, of the note, rather than reaching across here. Okay? And then as far as the other notes, from the 3rd note and up, I would typically use one of my 3 striking fingers. I usually call them striking fingers. So that's going to be your index finger or your middle finger or your ring finger, whichever one is most comfortable. When I started playing, I used my ring finger on my right hand a lot, and I used the middle finger on my left hand a lot. So it doesn't matter which finger you use, as long as it's comfortable for you. Eventually, there are some benefits for using different fingers at different times. But for now, whatever's comfortable for you is the best way to go. So in this case, I'll use my index finger, and when I'm striking the 3rd note, this is the 3, then I'll strike again towards the bottom of the note. In fact, the best place to strike this note is if you were to just take your hand like this and just like naturally open it and then place it down so that you're touching both the 1 and the 3 at the same time, then basically those are the 2 best places to strike the notes. So I would strike my 1 here, and I would strike my 3 around here. And if you can get this going, this little sweeping action, then that's a really, really good motion to develop with your playing. For me personally, I would probably do this with my thumb and my ring finger because that gives me a bit more extension. But thumb and index totally works as well. Okay? So then the same thing goes for the left side. So if I were to just take my hand and make a little V, or like open it up, or like a Nike swoosh, then I can place it down on the 2 and the 4, and then those are the best places to strike those notes. Down here, bottom left corner of the 2, and over here on the outside of the 4. So that's a really good place to start. Just here. And as you're striking, so when we're doing this strike with our striking finger, our index or middle or ring finger, then there's two ways to do it. The simplest way is basically just to lift the wrist and the finger that you're going to strike with, and then as you approach the pan, you're kind of like allowing your finger to loosely fall into the note. So you're not really pressing so much, because if you press and hold, then that will mute the note. So you want to use some movement here in your finger, but you also, ironically or kind of like oxymoronically, you kind of want to allow it to like loosely fall into the note and come off. So as soon as you make contact with the metal, you're moving off of the metal. And so one way that you can look at it is you're kind of touching it like you're checking if it's hot, you know, like kind of like if you're checking if a hot plate is hot or something. Right? Just touching it to see if it's hot, because you don't want to get burnt. If you hold it, it'll get burnt. Again, you might know all this and you might be way ahead. If so, then I would just advise to skip to the other sections. I'll have timestamps in this video that you can skip to. Cool. So that's the first way of touching with your striking finger. The other way is like I showed before, where you have this kind of a sweeping action. Right? So you're still touching it and making very, very little contact with the metal, but the difference is you're kind of starting with your wrist out, right? And then you're kind of sweeping in, touching it, making very quick contact, and then allowing your finger to bounce off and turning your wrist in. So you kind of start from palm facing out to palm facing in, like this. And this is really a really good motion to basically to allow your body to get used to, so that over time you can kind of get this right, and then over time that turns into like more complicated and interesting stuff like, but for now just practicing those two methods of touching is a really, really good place to be. Okay? Great. So then the same goes for the higher notes, 5, right? 5, 6, 7, and 8. So with those higher notes, so you'll notice that I'm kind of isolating my index finger here. I'm raising it up, and then I'm touching it really quickly, making contact with the metal, and then allowing my whole wrist and finger to bounce away. And notice the placement too. I'm touching right here, so the area that's kind of closest to me on the outside rather than reaching across the note, the pan, or the note. And then over here, same thing. Over here, same thing. And the 8, same thing. Sometimes people ask, is it okay if your like the ball of your hand is making contact with the pan? I say it's totally fine as long as it's not creating a sound that you don't want to be there. So for me, as I'm touching this, sometimes the ball of my hand is touching around here, like this interstitial area, and it's not making any sound. So that's totally fine. If you're really trying to be careful about not making any sound at all, then you could raise it and just keep it up here while you play. And then that way there's some space here between the metal and your hand. Okay? So that's the basics of striking your handpan. The next thing we'll get into is striking the ding. So when striking the ding, there's a few ways to strike the ding. The most basic way is like an open strike. So you're using your thumb and you're just making contact with the ding. Again, quick contact, significant contact, but quick contact, and then raising your hand away. Okay, and so this is like an open ding hit, I would say. I would describe it as an open hit. Another way is the muted hit. The muted hit is where you just hold your thumb on the ding, and that gives a little bit more bass, and it's useful for certain types of rhythms. So for example, if we had a basic rhythm, we might mix open hits with closed hits. Like, I'm just going to make something up here. Okay, so hopefully that illustrates the difference between the open and the closed ding hit. Or the closed ding hit, aka muted ding hit. The third way of hitting the ding would be a way where you have the ball of your hand right under your thumb, kind of resting on the outside of the shoulder here. Okay? And then once that makes contact, and you're not trying to make contact, like make a sound, but you're kind of just lazily touching the handpan here with the ball of your hand, and then allowing the ding to fall into, allowing your thumb to fall into the ding, right? Like this. And the idea behind this is you're getting that really bassy thump of the ding while muting the shoulder tones, because the shoulder tones can be quite high-pitched and metallic sounding, right? So if you want to eliminate those shoulder tones from your open ding hit without doing a fully closed or muted ding hit, then then you can just practice this kind of really interesting in-between option. You get a nice full ding hit that's not so open. So if I hit it open, you can kind of hear all those overtones, right? But with this third option, you're kind of getting more of the purity of that ding. That's a technique that I haven't really incorporated very well into my playing yet. I'm just starting to get used to it, but very, very interesting technique. I was taught that technique by Luke of Peace Pans, which this happens to be, a Peace Pan. All right, so what's next? Okay, in the next video, we'll go over a little bit of patterns that we can start to play with this particular instrument, the B Celtic, but this pattern can apply to just about any instrument, any handpan anyways. Maybe not any instrument, but any handpan. All right, I'll see you in the next video.